Hello everybody, I'm some loudmouth on the internet with an opinion. And in case you're wondering where I am right now, well, while I was flossing my teeth, I had a particularly bad toothache right back here, and I flossed so hard that I accidentally fell into an alternate dimension where dinosaurs still exist. Yeah, it sucks. Who knows, if I don't get back, this could be my last video since I'm broadcasting from another realm so far away. Farther than you could possibly imagine, a whole nother universe. But I'm going to talk about something that's been bothering me for the last 8 years. As of recording this, I am now 29 years old. And in the year 1991, I was a mere lad of 4. Like all boys my age, I was into children's entertainment that had aliens, dinosaurs, and a chick in a fur bikini, although the last one I wasn't really consciously aware yet. And conveniently enough, ABC Television produced a show with all 3 of these things. That show was called Land of the Lost. It was a simple fantasy show that pandered to what children like me wanted to see at the time, and I enjoyed it on Saturday mornings. The premise of the show was simple enough, with an ordinary 90s family falling into a portal to another dimension randomly during a family vacation, and having to live in a strange world where dinosaurs still exist and the sky is 3 moons. The family encounter all kinds of dangers and try to get back home in numerous episodes, as they are menaced by unfriendly dinosaurs, aliens, and other threats. Yeah, kids, in that long ago age before Netflix streaming, Saturday morning was a very, very special time for children. This series wasn't anything too great, I'll admit, but it gave kids some pretty good effects work for the time and a good variety of characters and situations. The series was relatively short-lived, lasting only 26 episodes, as its ratings didn't justify its expanded effects budget. Now we've crossed the line, falling behind, living in the land of the lost. Oh, sorry. What's kind of ironic is the series was canceled shortly before the first Jurassic Park came out, and I imagine if the show had stuck around just a little bit longer, the renewed interest in dinosaurs from Jurassic Park may have helped the show last. But what I didn't find out till much later actually, is that the show I watched when I was a little kid was actually a remake of a previous show from the 70s with the same title. The 70s version shares the same concept of a family trapped in an alternate dimension where dinosaurs still exist, but with even cheesier special effects than the 90s series. Still, it was a cut above the average 70s fare, thanks to some occasionally smart sci-fi writing. That's why I was interested when it was announced that in 2009, a big screen remake of Land of the Lost was going to come out. I was also very interested when I heard that Brad Silberling was responsible for it, who directed a few pretty decent flicks, such as Casper, the 1995 movie, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, and I figure with the concept and big Hollywood budget, they could create a pretty cool family adventure movie. Then I heard it was going to be a star vehicle for Will Ferrel, and I started to get worried. Now, don't get me wrong, Will Ferrel is capable of being pretty funny in certain comedic situations if he's given the right material, but all too often he seems to play the same character in every movie. That is an obnoxious man-child who hopes that acting in an immature fashion will on its own make the audience laugh. That kind of character can be kind of funny in certain contexts, but if that's all you do, movie after movie, the audience, and myself included, are getting pretty sick of it. This came out shortly after Ferrell starred in another big screen takeoff from a 70s TV show, where he starred with Nicole Kidman in Bewitched, which is still one of the worst big screen adaptations of a television series I have ever seen. Would Will Ferrell grow up and show a little bit more respect for Land of the Lost? Absolutely not. This is my review of the 2009 Land of the Lost, starring Will Ferrell. Ugh. We open the movie with an astronaut who apparently fell into the titular Land of the Lost, and we get a somewhat dark and moody opener. Oh, how awesome it would be if the entire movie kept the tone of that opening. Yeah, but this opening has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the movie whatsoever. I don't even know why it's here. Did they shoot it for like a good Land of the Lost movie they were planning to make early in production, and then they just switched it out with crap? I'm like, we gotta stick it here somewhere. No, the movie proper begins on the Today Show, where we meet Rick Marshall, played by Will Ferrel, being interviewed by Matt Lauer.
Paleontology, that's correct.
What exactly is that?
It's, not to say modestly, it's our very future, Matt. It's the only real solution to solving this fossil fuel crisis we're experiencing, and it boils down time warps. Over $50 million on my research.
You've spent $50 million of your own money studying time warps?
No, that's adorable. No, taxpayers' money. I don't have $50 million.
And now you're asking for more. We are living in a time right now with huge cuts in spent...
No, you weren't. This movie came out in 2009, during some of the highest deficits in history. All Will Ferrel needed to do was call it stimulus, and the money would roll right in. But Rick does what all Will Ferrel characters always seem to do when put into a challenging situation. Act like an immature man-child in the hopes the audience laughs.
What about the critics who have a fair question, Doctor? They say, this theory of yours is not science, it is non-science, and some are even more blunt and they say it's nonsense. How do you respond to that? Stephen Hawking says this is nonsense. That's his word.
So you know what, this interview's over.
Why?
What your producer said, you wouldn't bring that up, all right?
It's a fair question.
No, it's not. It's a hatchet.
That was my guest, Dr. Rick Marshall, whose
right it
book
was.
arrives in stores tomorrow. You might want to look for it in the I'm Out of My Freaking Mind department. Are you out of your mind? What, are you crazy?
Really? Why would you agree to an interview and then flip out like a 2-year-old when you're asked a simple question? It's not funny. It's just stupid. 3 years later, we see Rick, who's now teaching science to middle school kids.
Any questions?
If you shot a ton of pot at the sun, would it burn up and get everybody high?
Hey, I've been asked dumber questions by actual adults, so who am I to judge? After class, an attractive woman walks up to Rick to ask him about his invention and ideas.
Did you ever try to make the Tachyon amplifier?
Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Holly Cantrell. I studied all your work at Cambridge.
Very odd the woman is named after Rick's teenage daughter in the original series. I know this movie is not following the same continuity, but that's still kind of a creepy change, all things considered.
Chasing that theory got me laughed out of mainstream science and landed me here. I don't have anyone to blame but myself.
If your theories are such rubbish, then explain this. That fossil is over 265 million years old with an imprint of a $10 lighter. Go on, explain that.
I know why. Implying the Land of the Lost is set in the prehistoric past. If this were a time travel movie, that actually would be a cool setup, possibly setting up kind of a cool time paradox. But we see both in the original series as well as later in the movie that the Land of the Lost is set in an alternate reality where we have 3 moons, something that was not the case 260 million years ago or any time in Earth's history. Someone didn't bother telling the filmmakers what the Land of the Lost was, or far more likely they just didn't give a shit. The next day, Holly walks in on Frank, who's passed out from eating too much, and we find out that overnight, Frank actually managed to build the Tachyon generator. Let me repeat that, everybody. Frank Marshall, played by Will Ferrel, a man-child who can't muster enough self-control to not attack an interviewer on live television just because he asked a polite question, is apparently smart enough to invent technology potentially thousands of years ahead of modern science.
Dr. Marshall, you're going to stop selling yourself short. We're on the verge of major discovery. Now, get up.
Sure, movie. Sure. What is more is him being a scientific genius was totally unneeded to justify him ending up in the Land of the Lost, as Rick in the original series simply fell into it by chance while rafting with his family. And the Porters in the 90s series, well, they fell into it while driving to a camping trip. Neither were scientists who built super advanced technology. They were simply ordinary family men who got really unlucky. This made them relatable, simply being parents who wanted to protect their families who were stranded in a dangerous place. So why did the movie even feel the need to make this stupid change? Did they think that the dichotomy of a brilliant scientist being an idiotic man-child was like hilariously ironic? It's not. This movie never seems to understand comedy beyond a 10-year-old level. I know repeating myself that this movie's not funny, scene isn't funny, will get a little tiresome, but geez, it's never funny. They drive to where Holly discovered the fossil, and we meet this movie's version of Will, played in this by a very annoying Danny McBride.
Here I call the Mexican vasectomy. How about this? This little travel mug I like to call the perfect woman. Big old set of boobies, no head.
Land of the Lost was a children's show! Similar to how they changed Holly, Will was Rick's teenage son in the original series. Here he's a pea-brained redneck with no relationship to Rick and no common sense.
Of the Devil's Canyon Mystery Cave. But be warned, you may get wet.
Actually, I need to know this equipment cannot get wet.
Not you, Mary Poppins. Boom, chicka, wow, wow, wow.
Rick and Holly follow this idiot onto his boat ride, and that's when they succeed in traveling to another dimension on a river raft ride, which admittingly would be a nice tribute to the original series opener, if only acted by actors who you didn't want to strangle. They awaken in the titular Land of the Lost, an alternate dimension with 3 moons.
Do you realize what this means?
It means Matt Lauer can suck it!
Since Matt Lauer agreed to be in this shitty movie, I agree, he can suck it. The 3 of them can't find the Tachyon rear that brought them there, and are trapped without it, and quickly encounter the ape-like Pakuni, and they look like crap.
For behold, ye troglodytes, I command the power of fire. How you like me now, huh?
Yes, I know they look similar to how they looked in the original series, but that was a show on a shoestring budget from the mid-70s. This is a $100 million movie from 2009. They should be able to do a lot better here. I've seen better Halloween costumes.
Language.
So they rescue one of the creatures, and we get a running gag where the Pakuni constantly gropes Holly over and over again throughout the movie. Because if a joke isn't funny the first 50 times they try it, it's important to repeat it over and over and over again until it finally gets a laugh. Because comedy doesn't come from work or wit, it comes from cheap sexual references. Another weird bit of nonsense this movie throws at us is that Holly can somehow speak their language. How? Why? Never explained.
Well, that's more like it. Holly, what did you tell him?
I think I told him that you're a great chief and you're very powerful.
Eat me. Please. They fall through a large hole that's just magically there under the sand, go figure, and get trapped in some highly illogical plant trap, don't ask. And they encounter their first dinosaur, a Tyrannosaurus on the hunt. This is kind of a Land of the Lost tradition. In the original series, they frequently encounter a Tyrannosaur named Grumpy that constantly menaces the family. This is definitely where the effects limitations of this 70s TV show were most apparent. In the 90s series, the Porters were menaced by a far more realistic-looking Tyrannosaur they named Scarface after a scar blinding his right eye. He was a frequent threat to the main characters, but also to the Sleestalks as well, and thus he sometimes came in handy. For the most part, I like the way this movie upgrades its look with modern CGI. But I really wish this Rex would eat these characters and make this movie end. What is really infuriating is how this movie anthropomorphizes the Rex, as it actually seems to understand English.
He's not what you'd call an athlete, Mr. T-Rex. See? Walking away in utter, helpless defeat. After all, his brain is the size of a walnut. Sure, his sense of smell may be acute, but eyesight, hearing, all of his higher functions completely compromised by that walnut-sized brain pan.
Let me remind everybody that although Land of the Lost was indeed a children's show, it never anthropomorphized its Tyrannosaurus to quite this extent. Think about that. The Saturday morning show made for children is more mature than this PG-13 movie is. So the Rex named Grumpy, who they name after the Rex in the original series, chases them into a cave. They hang out in the cave for several minutes, doing absolutely nothing funny whatsoever, until Will Ferrel thinks he'll try to be funny by talking into a camera.
600 Zulu time. Did not sleep last night at all. Not one bit. Still no sign of the Tachyon amplifier, our only way home.
Thusly, I've made the determination that, if need be, if faced with starvation, we will cook and eat chaka. I've been thinking about this a lot, actually. If chaka meat were the secret ingredient on Iron Chef, I'm sure Bobby Flay would probably serve it with roasted red peppers and a dash of cumin.
There is absolutely no way any of this shit was actually scripted. It looks like Will Ferrel just grabbed a camera and started randomly babbling into it, and no one on the set had the heart to tell him he wasn't funny. Chaka brings back some food for everybody, and this only leads to another gross-out gag.
Sorry for doubting you, my little friend. Has a pungent flavor. It smells good. Very neat.
And Rick didn't feel them crawling on his hands because... They see a massive light shine outside the cave, and Rick suddenly starts to go all Harry Potter and starts having visions that eventually lead him to a giant crystal.
Ooh, it vibrates. I wouldn't touch that, all right?
Do you believe in love after love?
That is so dumb and childish.
You have no idea. It's here where we get our first glimpse of this movie's version of the Sleestalks, and just like everything else in this movie, they look like total shit. And yes, I know they look very similar to the Sleestalks from the original television series, but that was a zero-budget show from the 70s. This is a $100 million movie released in 2009. They should be able to do better. Seriously, the 90s series updated their look to be far more menacing and interesting 18 years earlier. Why was it so hard for this movie to do the same thing again and take advantage of modern special effects to give us a cool new look for them? I guess the filmmakers saw people laughing at bad special effects and assumed that bad special effects were inherently funny. And on the occasion they can be, but only when they happen by accident. If you make the effects look bad by design, it ceases to have any comedic value anymore. They escape into the crystal, and inside the crystal encounter a talking yellow Sleestalk named Enoch.
Do not fear me. I am Enoch, the Altrusian. Thank Vindok you've come to my aid, Rick Marshall.
Such a shame they had to mess with this character. In the original series, the episode The Stranger, they encounter a talking Sleestalk who claims to be from this world's future. This is probably the best episode of the series and features some fantastic sci-fi writing about the fall of civilizations, and the one episode that feels most like an episode of the original Star Trek. Yeah, who's willing to bet we are not going to get that level of sophistication here? Instead, this version of Enoch warns them that someone is trying to bring a bunch of Sleestalks to take over the world.
Of course!
Hey, memes are fair use.
Video. Fate of the universe depends on you. No, Rick Marshall. I have summoned you here specifically to help me stop an evil madman who has already conquered my world, and now plans to conquer yours. His name is the Zarn.
I am the Zarn. Heed my warning or be destroyed.
The Zarn became obsessed with using the power of these crystals to conquer the universe. If he is not stopped, he will open a doorway to your world and lead his army of Sleestak on a rampage across time and space. He must be stopped.
Yeah, these things are going to take over the world. Yeah, bullshit. If they 1 billion of them showed up, the U.S. Army would take care of them in like 2 days flat. Enoch informs them that they must find the Tachyon amplifier that they lost in order to save the universe. Oh boy, doesn't that sound awesome. But because this movie still completely sucks, this just leads right into a completely pointless and stupid and unfunny, gross-out joke to lengthen this movie.
Now, hadrosaur urine.
We are going to cover
Whoa, wait. What is that?
Hadrosaur urine.
How'd you get that?
Well, while you were sleeping, I'm out gathering research, okay? This was to be used for genetic engineering, and I was going to write a report on kidney function. But now it'll just be camouflage. We'll all blend in. Okay, so we'll cover our bodies in urine, and then we'll be virtually undetectable to all dinosaurs. All right, here they come. Should have thought of this a long time ago. Whew! That's refreshing.
Hey, moron! Fucking moron!
Hadrosaurs were the primary prey item of large predators like Tyrannosaurus. Why didn't you just say it was Spinosaurus piss? The joke would have still been gross and stupid, but it would have at least made a little bit of sense. Not only this, but they stretch out this scene for like 5 minutes. What does it add to the movie? Nothing. We quickly move on to a large desert where we see lots of items from across history. This shows the Land of the Lost is a place where people and items from across the ages have all been trapped in a single place.
It's like a cosmic lost and found.
Oh, the awesome sci-fi potential that could have been gained from this scene with writers that weren't dropped as babies. We see an ice cream truck fall right into the scene completely at random.
There's your food court.
Again, if things just fall into the Land of the Lost at random, why was it necessary to make Will Ferrell's character a scientist who built a tachyon meter again? We see some velociraptors who look very much in the mold of Jurassic Park come to attack the ice cream truck. And also, for the love of the great dinosaur in the sky, why are these raptors attacking the ice cream truck while ignoring the main character standing right in front of them? Oh my god, this movie is so stupid. I'm getting dumber by the second. 2 + 2 = 35. Gender is a social construct. Grumpy the T-Rex and a random Allosaur both show up and give chase to our heroes. This chase lasts several minutes and is mostly shot in incredibly aggravating shaky cam and leads to various unfunny gags like him pretending to be a store mannequin, and it ends with this scene. Liquid nitrogen does not make you explode. You fucking morons. After that moment of absurdity, they find out that inside the Allosaur that just blew up was the tachyon meter they were looking for. Geez, you're making Captain Kirk finding Spock on a random ice planet a less absurd coincidence. But wouldn't you know it, a Pteranodon swoops down and takes it away. And of course this leads to Will Ferrell having an unfunny emo moment.
I'm giving up. I tried, I failed, and you know what? Once again, it's my own damn vault. You mean vault? How could this happen to me? I made my mistakes, got nowhere to go.
Oh, fuck off. You were lucky to find the thing just randomly fall into your lap without any leads. You're the luckiest son of a bitch in the world. Why don't you just randomly wander around and I'm sure you'll run into something. The following night, Rick suddenly cheers up, making the whole emo scene earlier even more pointless than I originally thought it would be. He keeps trying to play some music, and keeps getting attacked by a killer insect while he's doing it.
It struck the tiny rock. It's so hard.
He can't feel that on him because he doesn't move away, because nobody tries to help him at all, because is a giant insect sucking out all your blood supposed to be funny? It's not. It's just kind of gross. They suddenly decide to climb to the top of the volcano where the Pteranodons nest. How the hell did you figure out where they nest? And if you knew where they nested the whole time, why on earth was Will Ferrell moaning that he couldn't possibly find it? As if that scene wasn't pointless enough. As apparently most animals typically do, pterodactyls in the universe of this movie nest at the top of volcanoes to raise their young in the most dangerous and inhospitable place possible.
Your shitty boombox across a sea of thin volcanic glass.
Favor, just keep an eye on the mother, okay?
You mustn't change the surface temperature of the eggs. Even a drop of sweat could activate the hatching process.
That's not how eggs hatching work. Whatever. Ferrell goes to get the tachyon meter, and of course all the Pteranodon eggs start hatching. So to calm them all, this happens.
We need this job. Please God, I need this job. I've got to get this job.
Okay, he can sing, and that's funny, because why? What set this up? What was the point? So, having found the device that they can get home with and save the world, what do? They start hanging out in the middle of nowhere at some random pool, and then they start to get high. Hell, we even get an uncomfortable oral sex joke.
The curtains hanging in the window in the evening on a Friday night.
Land of the Lost was a children's show. For unknown reasons, Holly wanders away from the rest of the group and finds out that Enoch was lying, and he is the one planning on leading the Sleestock army. Holly is taken captive by the Sleestocks, accused of being Enoch's ally, which she was, but is later rescued by Will and Rick. Oh yeah, an army of these things are totally a threat to the planet. What would SEAL Team 6 do with a couple of these things?
What about our working relationship?
I wanted to do that since I first met you.
Woo!
Yeah, what woman could resist a catch like that? Fortunately, Enoch shows up with the Tachyon meter.
With the power of the crystals, they are my slaves. Thanks to your device, I can lead an invasion force anywhere I choose in all of time and space. But I believe I will begin with your Earth. My Sleestacks reproduce quickly.
Oh yeah, we already caught some of that action.
In mere weeks, your world will be overrun by their scaly offspring.
And then guess who shows up with him? Let me remind everybody, this Tyrannosaurus Rex is not hunting for food. He is angry that Rick mentioned that dinosaurs have small brains, and he's offended. I hate this stupid movie. So yes, Rick goes into battle against the Tyrannosaur using a stick, and it goes just about as well as you'd expect. Yes! He's gone! Thank you, Mr. Tyrannosaur. Can you also show up at the beginning of every Happy Madison movie and eat the man-child lead there before the movie starts? The world would be a much better place. So then, I am not kidding. Holly pours out her heart to the fucking dinosaur. Let me repeat. She tries to lecture a Tyrannosaurus Rex on true love.
Probably the most brilliant man ever. Probably the only man who ever really knew you. All right, so he was wrong about the size of your brain, but you don't go and eat a man for that. You reason with him, you stupid idiot. It was your future. It was my future. And I'm never going to get a chance to tell him that because of you.
Damn it! When you get stranded back in time and you only got a little bit of booze? And I bet these dinosaurs aren't going to make it for me. Fuck! So Holly and Will attack the Sleestalks, who once again show just how much a threat they are to the entire planet.
You want some of this?
And then this happens.
Step.
No! He was dead! Oh, God. This movie just lost... Well, I never really had any goodwill for it, so whatever.
Dude, we thought you had died.
Died? No. That was just a minor setback.
I also have to say this is some of the worst CGI integration I have ever seen. None of the characters even react to this Tyrannosaur right in front of them.
Not important right now. I'm okay, and that's it.
One of the criticisms of overuse of CGI in live-action movies is that oftentimes it's hard for the actors to interact with something that really isn't there on the set. Oftentimes it's tried and not really integrated all that successfully, whereas here, they didn't even try.
Oh, jeez. Would you grow up?
Oh my God!
Yes, he pooped me out.
Ugh. Now you guys are friends?
Well, I was sneaking my way through his bowels. I don't know. I must have dislodged some sort of intestinal blockage. And yes, he's in a much better mood now. So, can we move on? I really would like to go home.
You were deuced out by a dinosaur.
Would saying that's an apt metaphor for this movie be a bit too obvious of a joke? Maybe it is, but I'm going to use it anyway. That's a very good metaphor for this movie.
Enoch! It's over.
So they go to confront Enoch, and this supervillain who's going to take over the world is stopped by grabbing him in a chokehold.
Hey! What? Yeah, I've been talking to my man Chaka. He pictures a pretty good world.
Ugh. That has got to be the least threatening villain ever. The villains in Adventures of Timmy the Tooth were more intimidating. Rick and Holly re-enter the world and decide to stay together, while Will stays in the land of the lost, which is fine because he apparently gets to bang hot cave women the rest of his life.
Guys would ever need. Okay. Hey, how's it going? This was definitely a good choice.
So does that mean it's over? No, almost. We get a pointless, unfunny follow-up to the pointless, unfunny Matt Lauer scene from early in the movie.
The remarkable events of the past year, he's back with a new book and more startling evidence of, you guessed it, time warps.
The pipe's allowed, I asked.
How did they prove anything? They went back empty-handed. Does Rick go back and forth now? What? Now, I get it's not explained. Maybe they were setting it up for a sequel, which thankfully never happened.
You're supposed to say the title and the publisher.
That's not going to happen.
Just say it.
No.
Just say the damn title.
Fine. Matt Lauer Can Suck It by Dr. Rick Marshall.
Matt Lauer attacks Rick, and in doing so gets his cash paycheck for this movie, and the movie finally comes to an end. Fuck this movie up its dino-sized dickhole. To say this movie raped my childhood would be a massive understatement. This movie is an act of creative genocide against children's programming everywhere. This movie is concentrated cinematic pain. As an adaptation of the series it's based on, it's hard to imagine anything worse than this. Being nothing like the television program is the least of this movie's problems. This movie seems to go out of its way to insult the series and its fans as much as it can. Normally in bad adaptations, I interpret this to simply misunderstanding the material or a lack of talent, but this movie goes so far I can only interpret this shit as being an intentional middle finger at the fans. Seriously, filmmakers, what did we ever do to you? But even if you ignore the television series entirely and judge it as a comedy on its own, it's still beyond terrible. The story makes zero sense whatsoever, and it bombards you with a frustrating anti-logic. As a comedy, this movie's about as funny as watching Adam Sandler watch paint dry. You get dick jokes, piss jokes, shit jokes, and Ferrel acting like a retarded dipshit for an hour and a half, with the only thing being different is some CGI dinosaurs slapped into the background that sometimes the characters barely even react to. It's so dreadfully unfunny, I feel dead as a dinosaur inside. Land of the Lost is a cinematic abomination. The good news is that Sid and Marty Krofft, the creators of the original series, have at the present time been pitching giving Land of the Lost another go on the big screen. They also rankly apologized for the 2009 movie, calling it one of the worst movies ever made, and saying that Universal ignored all their concerns about it during the production. I wish them the best in their efforts, and I do hope that someday a proper movie adaptation of Land of the Lost does come to pass. In the meantime, check out both the original series. If you can tolerate the dated effects, you might find them enjoyable. But for the love of everything that is holy in this savage universe, stay away from this fucking movie. I'm some Loudmouth on the internet, and you just heard my opinion. If you like this video, please consider making a donation to my Patreon. Thank you.